Ah, so we're continuing in the Hadith science. And I want to emphasize for you the attention that you should pay to this science uh, because recently there's been some talk about whether the Hadith science stands up to non Muslim or Western academic standards. Whatever word they might use, historical processors, some other word, I don't know what they're talking about. According to Western academic educational standards, academic standards, the hadiths are not verified in their claim. And that, according to those who didn't stand up for the hadith science, those who said the hadith science is doesn't hold up in according to Western academic standards. Those who said that and then did not defend the hadith science, the Islamic, the prophetic hadith science. They didn't produce a single hadith and demonstrate how the authenticity process, the Islamic authenticity process, doesn't hold up. Because if at the end of the day, the best thing they have is to say they relied on the memories of men, we're going to say to them, but it proves that the memories of the men were accurate, though. When you put everything together, it proves that the memories of the men were accurate. There's no inconsistencies here. But there's some hadiths that have some defects in them. They've been sifted out. And their defects have been detected. And the sources of those defects have been detected. And even some of them were still known to be reliable simply because they knew where the mistake was. And that actually is accurate report except for some mistake here or there. I once talked to a kafir. He was a philosopher. I mean, someone who is attached to philosophy. And he sees it as a way. And he was a kafir, and there was a Muslimah interested in marrying him. So she told me to talk to him. So I talked to him. He was a great skeptic. And he said, this is unheard of. Uh, how did the Muslims track every single thing Muhammad did to such great detail? He's a skeptic here. He's not bewildered, he's a skeptic. He said, this is unheard of. Did you ever see something like that? So I told him the truth, which is that this science of hadith is exclusively an Islamic science. No other nation has the science of hadith. So no, I didn't see it anywhere else, to answer the question directly. That doesn't disprove its accuracy. So some talk has been sparked here. Yeah, I mean, maybe it will die down. But yeah, subhanAllah. Let's continue. And let's buckle down here and understand the science well. We are still talking about the hadith as authentic by itself. Here's the text over here on the left side. The author says, starting on the second line here, وَذِي مِنْ أَقْسَامِ الْحَدِيثِ عِدَّةٌ. These lines, according to Sheikh Al-Jabarti, the meaning of this line is, these lines contain divisions and subdivisions of hadiths as well as hadith topics, a number of them. وَكُلُّ وَاحِدٍ أَتَى وَحَدَّهُ. And each one came with its definition and or with an example. أَوَّلُهَا الصَّحِيحِ. The first of them is the authentic hadith, the sound hadith, the healthy hadith. The one that's healthy by itself does not need reinforcement to be sound. The one that is, it's called Sahihun Lidatihi. Writing it up here. It's called Sahihun Lidatihi. That means sound by itself. It does not need reinforcement to be sound. It is just a sound hadith. By it, on its own standing. Yes, so that's the Sahih here that the author is talking about in his poem, Al-Baykuni, when he says the first of them is the Sahih. The sound one, the one that's sound by itself without needing reinforcement. If it needed reinforcement, then there would be a sixth condition for its authenticity. There's only 5 conditions for its authenticity. But if it's authentic by something else, by some reinforcement, then there's a 6th condition for its authenticity, which is that very reinforcement. So we're not talking about that one here because he only told us 5 conditions. So we know he's talking about the one that's sound by itself. أولها الصحيح وهو ما اتصل. It's the one that isnaduhu, its chain connected. Ittasala isnaduhu. Excuse me. Sheikh Al-Jabarti told us that what does isnad mean? He said isnad has 2 meanings. Isnad means sometimes citing everyone in the chain one by one. We're going to call that citing the chain. And isnad sometimes means the sanad. The sanad is the chain, the whole thing. Not citing each person one by one, but just a chain. And therefore you could have sanadan, 2 chains, for example. But for plural, you're going to say asanid. Goes back to the word isnad. That's what Sheikh Al-Jabarti taught us. Yani, documented for us. And then we benefited. It is that which its chain connects. So when he says here, ittasala isnaduhu, which meaning of isnad does he mean here? Who can tell us? When he says, awwaluha sahihu wa huwa mattasal isnaduhu, the first one is the sound hadith. It's the one that its chain was connected. Its isnad was connected. Which meaning of isnad does he mean here? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. He means here this first meaning of isnad, citing the chain. وَهُوَ مَتَّصَلْ إِسْنَادُهُ. It is that which its chain is connected if we were to cite each narrator one by one. That's what he means here. It's nice. I'm very happy with going over this, even though I want so badly to get to Alfiyat al-Iraqi, which is nice. Inshallah, if Allah enables us, if we go this way and Allah enables us, then we will start Iraqi good, inshallah. Warm, not cold. Walam yashuv, and it was not anomalous. You know what that means? It didn't appear to be authentic and then go against something that's more reliable. Oh yu'al, nor was it defective, with an obscure defect in particular. Sheikh Al-Jabarti explains, this means in particular, it didn't have an obscure defect, as opposed to what Az-Zurqani said, that Az-Zurqani said, oh yu'al here means it didn't have any defect, obscure or obvious. Because if an obscure defect is effective, it will discredit the hadith, then for sure an obvious one would. That's how Az-Zurqani explained here, oh yu'al. And Sheikh Al-Jabarti saying, no, not really. Not like that. Really, it means, in particular, it didn't have an obscure defect. And he showed where the author said that clearly. Down here, which line is that? Bismillah. Line 24. وما بعلة غموض أو خفا معلل عندهم قد عرفا. Anything that has a defect obscure or hidden, it is mu'allal, defective, according to them, known. So that's the meaning of defective here. أو يعل, meaning that's the standard talk of the hadith scholars. Mustalah. What are we studying? Mustalah, terminology. We want to know what the words mean. Okay. So to remind you, it means in particular, it doesn't have an obscure defect? Yes. So if it had an obvious defect, they don't call it defective? The answer is not technically. So you're taking note of that. If it has an obvious defect, would the hadith scholars call it defective? The answer is not technically. So if it has an obvious defect, then what would they call it? They call it by the name of the obvious defect. Such as munqati', has severed chain, or something else. Not defective. So that's their standard talk there. And he did tell us that they might call something with an obvious defect defective, but then that's not according to the terminology. Then it's just going to be a literal usage of defect. He'd say, this is defective hadith, and he means in a literal sense. Just like you might say, this is a mashhur hadith, famous hadith, but you mean in a literal sense, not in a technical sense. If you have any question there, feel free, please. And this is where we are today. On line 4 here, Bismillah. يرويه عدل ضابط عن مثله معتمد في ضبطه ونقله. Narrating it, or narrated by an adl, trustworthy or upright, ضابط, precise or accurate one, trustworthy one, trustworthy, precise one, yani upright, accurate one. An mithlihi, from his like. An mithlihi, so what does that mean? An mithlihi, from his like. This means the whole chain is like that. Yani that one who was talking about hadith science and how it doesn't stand up to Western standards, I don't think he even studied al-Baykuniyya. I think this person has just enough information to make it sound like he knows what he's talking about. And if he were to have a conversation who knows this science of hadith, he won't have anything to say. معتمد في ضبطه ونقله, reliable. معتمد, relied on. في ضبطه, in his precision. Here, his precision means his near perfect memory. Yani, in his precision, meaning in his precise, he's reliable in his precise memory. وَنَقْلِهِ, and reliable in his documentation, his fair documentation. I'm throwing the word fair in there. That's a signal to the Hasan narrator. As you remember our lessons, what's the most significant difference between Hasan hadith and Sahih hadith? The level of precision of the narrator. So if he has, for example, photographic memory, then he's going to be a Sahih narrator. And if he doesn't have photographic memory, but he has accurate documentation, verified, he does not make mistakes, then he's a Hasan narrator, if, of course, other conditions are fulfilled. So let's see what Sheikh Al-Jabarti says. Yarwihi adlun. Narrating it is a trustworthy one. Fi'lun wa fa'ilun. Fi'lun wa fa'il. Yarwihi adlun. Yani, and an upright one narrates it. An upright one narrates it. Yani, this is a complete sentence here. That's a subject and a predicate, is what he's saying here. That's a subject and a predicate in itself. Here it is. Yarwihi adlun, line number 4. The adl is the subject of a sentence, which is, what's its predicate? Yarwihi, narrating it. So it means an upright one narrates it. That's a complete sentence there. Wal jumlatu hal, and this complete sentence is itself an adverb, meaning the meaning is as if the word while is there. So he's saying the meaning of the line of poetry here. Let me just erase some of the scribbling here so I can scribble on it again. He's saying the meaning of this line of poetry, awaluha sahih. The first type is, the first of the types of the aqsam is the sahih. Wahuwa, and it is matasala isnaduhu. What has connected chain each narrator one by one. Isnad here, not with the meaning of sanad. Walam yashudh, and it's not irregular according to the definition we have repeated several times. If you need it repeated, you can ask. Oh, yu'al, nor is it defective, and he means in particular according to the standard words of the hadith scholars, nor is it defective obscurely, in particular. While someone upright narrates it, that's the meaning. While someone upright is narrating it, it's an adverb, the sentence. Yarwihi adlun. And a trustworthy one is narrating it. So has the meaning of the action happening. Dabitun, a trustworthy, precise one. An mithlihi. So he says, Yarwihi adlun, it's narrated, or narrating it is a upright one. That's a subject and a predicate. And the whole sentence is an adverb. Min mal mawsulah. It's an adverb for what in particular? Al-Jabarti says for the word ma. For the word mas, describing this sentence. Yarwihi adlun dabitun is describing ma. So the first of them is the sahih, the authentic or the sound one. And it is ma. What? Ittasala isnaduhu. Its chain was narrated. Yarwihi adlun. And a trustworthy one narrates it. Narrates that. What? That man. أي والحال أنه يرويه شخص متصف بالعدالة. So the meaning is that the circumstance of this report is that it is narrated by some person who is attributed with trustworthiness and uprightness. وَالْمُرَادُ بِالْعَدَالَةِ عَدْلُ الرِّوَايَةِ. And what's meant by the trustworthiness, the adl, the adala, the trustworthiness or the uprightness here is that of narration. The uprightness or trustworthiness of narration. Riwayah. Riwayah. That word should be in your vocabulary. You're studying Hadith science now. So you're going to have to be familiar with these words. You're going to find them one day, Annie. You're going to appreciate that so much when you find yourself in a conversation and you know what to say. You're going to say, Alhamdulillah. Wallahi, once I never heard the word mustalah before. Never. You know, the very, very first time I heard the word mustalah was from Wahhabis. Wahhabis. I was talking to some Wahhabis on the street about something. And about some case, maybe it was bid'ah. Also, maybe no. We were also talking about how to take the knowledge and not merely by reading. They thought you can take the knowledge just by reading. They said to me, we never heard of this, what you are saying in the mustalah. This word was completely alien to me. So I had to say, what's that? They said, that's hadith. Yeah, and hadith science. So I didn't even know what to say. What's meant by adl here, trustworthy or upright, is, though adl means most literally I can bring for it is fair, straight, even. This one we're calling trustworthy or upright. The one who is upright in narration. And who is he? And opposed to what? So he didn't say as opposed to what? Upright in narration. As opposed to what? As opposed to witnessing. As opposed to being a witness. Hadith narration is not exactly like testimony. It's not exactly like testimony. It does not have all the same conditions and rules as testimony. Rather, hadith narration and testimony, they have some things in common and they have some differences. Inshallah, if we get to Alfiya al-Iraqi, I ask Allah to enable us, and He has some details for us. So now we're primed and waiting, inshallah, to talk more about the difference between hadith narration, and testimony. But now we're still on a lower level. We're not going to talk into that. We're not going to talk about that now. But the Sheikh al-Jabarti pointed to it for us here. And any other book would. He said here, what's meant by the adl, this trustworthy one, is adlur riwayah, the one who is trustworthy in his narration. Wahua, and he is... that means also, or she, he or she is al-Muslim al-Aqil al-Baligh al-Salim min al-Fisq wa-Salim min Khawarim al-Muru'ah. Okay. He said that is the Muslim. So, you know what that means. Who is sane. So if he's kafir, he's not trustworthy in his narration. What did we learn in our previous lessons, though? What if a kafir heard a hadith and then embraced Islam and then he taught us hadith after that? Can we take it? Yes. Aqil, sane, baligh, pubescent. Also, what if a prepubescent child learned a hadith and then after puberty narrated it? Is that sufficient for us? Yes, yani assuming he's accurate. As-salimu min al-fisq, clear of major sin. And this case, important to understand what it means exactly. He's going to say here, وَهُوَ ارْتِكَابُ كَبِيرَةٍ, which is the committing of a major sin. Yes. أو إصرار على صغيرة, or insisting, yani consistently committing a small sin. Okay, you know that. But there's still something else very important not to forget here in the hadith science. When they say the major sinner, they mean he cannot be an outward major sinner, an apparent or open major sinner. Why? To exclude what? To exclude someone whose major sin is in his heart between him and his Lord. Like what? Like, in particular, most significantly, like if he's accused of having a heretical creed, a deviated creed. if he's accused of being a Shiite, or he's accused of being a Mu'tazili, or he's accused of being a Khariji, or he's accused of being something else, a Mushabbih, with other details there that go there. If you remember, inshallah, then you recall. If you don't recall some of the details that go there, then you'll wait until we get back to that if Allah enables us. But that's important. It's not accurate to say he cannot have a creed other than the creed of Ahlus Sunnati wal Jama'ah, period. Rather, what's accurate is to say he cannot be outwardly a major sinner, not outwardly. So that even includes the propagator, the da'i, the one who calls to the innovation, who calls to the heresy, the one who calls to the deviated creed. Can't be one of those. Rather, this one who is apparently from the outside not a major sinner, but he's accused of being such and such. This one, what looks like his case, though, that he's a good Muslim, actually. What looks like his case that he adheres to the religion. And we don't find in his hadiths that he's narrating what supports what he's been accused of. And we found him accurate and truthful. So the scholar's going to take from it. So that's the meaning here of he must be clear of major sin, including insisting on the small sins. If you have any question there, feel free. وَالسَّالِمُ مِنْ خَوَارِمِ الْمُرُوءَةِ, and he must be clear of what diminishes his virtue. What diminishes his muru'ah, I'm translating as virtue. This word, al-muru'ah, might be respect. Close to, just to give you an idea, Yani. And what is that? This is in reference to some things that are not haram, but would make the person not acceptable to the hadith scholars. Like he plays a lot of chess. A lot, that it's. Yani, did I just say a lot? Yeah, I did say a little bit. When I say something, Yani, most likely I meant to say what I said. Most likely, unless my tongue slipped. Lots of chess, then this is an example of what diminishes the virtue, or telling lots of jokes, or flying pigeons. That's a hobby that some people have. They would live in a building, in a high-rise building, and they would have a pigeon coop on the rooftop. And they play with these pigeons, and they fly those pigeons around. When I say play with them, Yani, it means it's their pastime. I don't mean they tickling the pigeons necessarily or something. It's their pastime, these pigeons. And they fly those pigeons around. They go around the building in circles, and they come back and land. So this is some hobby some people have. This one diminishes the virtue, not a sin. Or for the scholar to walk through the market eating a sandwich if he's not amongst the people of the market. Or for a scholar to walk through the market eating a sandwich if he's not amongst the people of the market. Now, do you know how we first learned that? How I first learned that? And there was other people there. How I first learned that or a scholar who eats a sandwich outside. So that's not exactly. And then I heard the scholar eats a sandwich in the marketplace. Still, that's not exact. So what's exact? Alhamdulillah. Like for the scholar to eat a sandwich, or eat openly like a sandwich in the marketplace without being one of the people of the market. And for some societies, for the scholar to come out with his head uncovered. None of these are sins. SubhanAllah. So, Sheikh Al-Jabarti says, Rahimahullah, فَلَا يَخْتَصُّ بِالذَّكَرِ الْحُرِّ. Therefore, this trustworthiness or uprightness is not special to or particular to or specifically for the free male. No, rather, this includes the slave and the female. And this is amongst the spots where hadith narration departs from testimony. Because in so many cases, the judge will not hear the testimony of the woman, and the judge does not hear the testimony of the slave. But we do hear the hadith narration of the women and the slaves. Anyone know a female hadith scholar? You should. Who knows a female hadith scholar? 5, 4, amongst the biggest too. 3, 2. Lady Aisha, correct. She was muhadditha. Great scholar, rahimahullah. May Allah raise her rank. Ameen. May Allah enable us to meet her in paradise. Ameen. And she used to teach the men too, right? Yeah, you know that. And also, how she used to teach, this important detail for you, nice proof for you. She used to teach how? From beyond the barrier. She used to be behind the veil. So that means that men would be hearing her voice without seeing her person. I don't know if there was women also there not seeing her. I don't know. But there would be men hearing her voice, not seeing her. Not just she had niqab, she had whole veil there. You don't see her. She's behind the curtain. Rahimahullah. So what's like that? That's like if you were, if there was a sheikh who's in a room and the door was closed, and then you heard him said, "Oh, nice lesson. I'm going to sit down and listen to this lesson." And you didn't even open the door. You just sat and listened to his lesson, and you took the lesson. That's valid. And what's that like? That's like our lesson right now. There's barrier between us. Hijab. There's hijab between us. Barriers. Hijab is a mana, a prevention. There's a prevention between us so that we are not together. And it's still valid though. And also when you hear the lessons in recordings from teachers you know, same judgment. You are hearing their voices without seeing their persons at the time that the statements were said. That's a type of talaqqi, so you know. Okay. So maybe that's good for today. Inshallah. Maybe we should stop there. Do you have any question? سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك